Ojo, Institute for Pan-African Thought and Conversation, and the University of Johannesburg, South Africa. Titled Dynamics of African Women Entrepreneurs and Leadership, Policies and Inclusive Approach. Let's give her a warm welcome. Thank you.
Hi everyone, good morning. All the way from South Africa, I'm going to say Kuyamora in Afrikaans, that's good morning, and Unkosi, that's a Zulu language, which also means good morning. So it's actually my privilege to be here today. I'm not really a stage person, I'm a lecturer, as you know, educators. So we actually like walking around and talking a lot when we're talking. So today I'm going to be talking about the dynamics of women leadership, women entrepreneurs and leadership. But before I start, I'll tell you briefly about myself. Okay? So I'm Tinuade Ojo. I'm the head of Unit for Pan-African Women's Studies at the University of Johannesburg. And I've actually been into, I have 25 years of working with civil societies, women institutions, when it comes to women economic empowerment. So when you talk about advocacy, you talk about education, you talk about women leadership in different phases. I actually represent all. Okay, and that's why I'm here. I've been working with different civil societies, including the multilateral institutions, in how we can actually positively influence policy. Okay, we've been having enough talks. We've been talking and talking and talking and talking. I don't know about you, but it's time for action. How many people believe that? Yeah. So do you agree with me? It's time for action. Yeah. So in Africa, just like you know, women entrepreneurs are part of the people that have actually been hit a lot, especially with the COVID, okay? But the secret is we have 58% representation in women entrepreneurs. And this 58% actually contribute towards the world 16% GDP. That's how strong they are. Okay? And despite that, they actually earn lower profits than men. We have 34% of women who actually earn less profit than men. And only 5% are CEOs. Which is slightly a little bit higher than the global average, of course. You'll be shocked with some reports. You know, I'm actually an academic, so I'll be showing you some stats now. And according to the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, female entrepreneurship in Africa is actually 25.9 of the female adult representation. Sorry, I was going back. So like I said, COVID hit the women entrepreneurs. And these women entrepreneurs, this 58%, has actually contributed $42 billion to the global environment. However, the aim is that by 2025, this same figure will be able to contribute 360 billion GDP to the global world. And that is why what we are doing here is actually a serious issue, and what we actually need to take considerably for us to be able to influence policy and ensure that women get stronger as we move on in this course. The top leading countries in Africa, you can see that. The first leading one is Botswana. They have 56.3% women entrepreneurs, followed by South Africa, 54.9%. Ghana, 51.1, Madagascar, 44.3, and Nigeria, 44.8. However, what I didn't put here is that this percentage does not necessarily represent the top leading women entrepreneurs. Majority are actually the women in the informal sector. Okay, so with South Africa, we only have 11% women in the top leading formal sector. The remaining are actually women in the informal sector. So I don't want to turn this into a lecture room. So I'm trying to keep it short. The lower countries, when you talk of women entrepreneurs and leadership, we have Lesotho, 17.6%. We have Egypt, 32.9%. Malawi, 33.9%. Algeria, 38%. Morocco, 38.6%. And like I said again, in fact, Lesotho, we only have 4% women who are women leaders in the formal sector. 4. Pauline was talking yesterday about financial literacy and financial inclusion. That's actually what I also do. And when we talk about financial and digital literacy, I was telling some colleagues backwards there that we discovered that after the COVID, most of the women that were actually influenced, you know, were women, the middle-aged women from the age of 30 to 60. Why? They were not digitalized. They were not prepared for COVID. And when COVID came and the whole world suddenly entered digitalization, they were actually excluded. And because of that, most of them lost their jobs, lost their serenity, and all that, and were forced to go back to the informal sector. And because of this, women's gender equality, economic empowerment, and gender parity has actually degraded. So in Africa, in fact, South Africa had 68% representation of women leaders in the local governance. Now it has fallen to 33%. And it's happening in each country. So ladies, I'm here today to tell you enough of stories. You know, we talk a lot. But it's time for what? Action. It's time for what? Action. Many factors have influenced this. You know, we have lack of trust, fear of fraud, because most women do not believe in digitalization. They don't believe in the government. They have better confidence in the informal sector. Indifference is also part of it. Like, what do they have to offer? Like, really? Insufficient earnings to savings. Pauline talked about that yesterday. And, you know, unemployment and so on and so forth. Many issues are affecting women, which have actually confined them. So what is the next step? How do we go about this? How do we navigate entrepreneurship and leadership? Okay, we need to be able to influence policy and contribute to the discourse on gender equality and economic empowerment. And that is what we need to stand for. Whichever discipline, whichever area you are, that should actually be your vision. That should be what you actually anticipate about. We've been trying to work on that in terms of teaching research and knowledge building, but there is still more to be done. We need to be able to champion women's participation in international diplomacy and foreign policy, enhancing women's voices, like what we are doing here. But not just amongst ourselves, ladies. We need to go the extra mile. We need to be able to mentor the young people, not necessarily women alone, even our men. I have 3 boys. I don't have women in my house. I'm the only princess, you know. Yeah, so despite the fact that I work a lot on women economic empowerment, I know that I need to tutor my boys in order for them to also ensure that they respect women and they fit into the society. Thank you. So it's so important to mentor both men and women, especially the guys. Let's catch them young, you know. at the grassroots, and also women at the grassroots. They've been excluded a lot. I was talking with my colleague yesterday. They've been excluded a lot. So we need to be able to go do that and ensure that we advocate for gender equality and women empowerment and work with relevant institutions that complement the vision and advocacy. That's what we are here for. So, like I said, I represent the Pan-African Women's Studies Unit within the university. And what we are trying to do is to ensure that we form this international research hub and network where we can actually bring in women, civil societies, activists, okay, motivational speakers, everybody, women leaders from whole diversity of life, okay, to ensure that we actually implement strategies that will influence what? Policy. Yes. Policy advocacy. Yes. We have that gender gap in women representation, okay? I was in Texas last week. I was presenting in the University of Texas, and we were talking about digital inclusion for women and sustainability, doing a cross-country analysis between the States and Africa. Now, the Africa, although Rwanda is leading when it comes to gender parity, but you won't believe when it comes to digital inclusion, they only have 52% representation. Whereas in the States, they have 32% women representation in the parliament, and they are just 26 on the gender gap index, but when it comes to women digital inclusion, they have 98%. Can you see where we are failing in the developing economies? So it's more about the issue of mass representation versus critical representation. Mass representation just put women there and say, oh yeah, we have women, they are there, they're working with us, but they are just figuratively, you know, there. Not part of the people informing policies or speaking to what is actually empowering women. So, and this is what we are lacking, and this is what we are preaching, and this is what we want to walk into, to ensure that we deliberately provide the evidence which is lacking. They don't have the data. They don't have evidence. They don't have anything to work with, but we want to give them that and ensure that we speak to the next 2030 agenda, which is the Sustainable Development Goals. I don't know how many of you are ready to work with me on this journey. Okay, so PAWS represent purpose. We try to ensure that women institutions, women leaders, and so on, they understand their purpose. Action is implemented in different parts of the continent and also in diaspora. Ensure that we encourage women to work as much as possible. Strength, sorry, the G is missing. There. And like I said, the aim is to work towards the SDG, the AU agenda, the African Union agenda, and what they are ready to do with the diaspora, promote African feminist scholarship, ensure that we talk about financial inclusion. Most of African states have women, more women within the population than men. However, they are the marginalized, they are the poor in the society. So there's not been any strategies or objectives that actually encourage women financial inclusion in all these countries. And that is it. It's quite appalling. Pauline was talking about that yesterday, and also the digital inclusion. Because whether we like it or not, the world has been forced to be digitalized. Yeah. And we need to carry these women along with us. Okay? And lastly, to talk about transformational leadership. Not just leadership in the core, but transformational what? Leadership. That we are. And that is what we are preaching in terms of governance and in terms of what? And global affairs. So, I'm standing here today, ladies, beautiful queens, angels, leaders, okay, that we should actually advocate and form a network, okay, of global leaders who are ready to inform policy, who are ready to ensure that we advocate and we promote transformational leadership. We want to do this. We want to raise up leaders. We are looking for institutions that are ready to fund, because we are going to be organizing different conferences, dialogues that will be working together. And in all these dialogues, we are going to ensure that they are strategically dialogues that will bring forth a policy brief, which we are going to be submitting to all the multilateral institutions. So we are going to be working with UN Women, working with IOM, ILO, and so on and so forth, to ensure that we submit the relevant reports, which will influence state leaders, global leaders, to enforce action. And that is what we represent. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Questions?
A couple of questions.
Yes. Yeah.
So what are you and the organization doing to see that more men-centered advocacy is done? Because it's okay to empower women, like you said, catch the boys young too. But what happens to the men in their lives, right? So then have some experiences where you empower the woman, and then she goes back home and is still not empowered. So how do you bring in the advocacy to also reach out to men, independently, and then to also carry on?
Thank you so much. That's a beautiful one. Should I answer first or take another question? Okay. So what we have been doing also is to ensure that we create dialogues and training, which involves also the men. So it's not only about the women this time, it's actually on gender. And when you say gender, gender involves the men. So that we actually ensure that we create platforms that prepare our generation, you know, for transformational leadership, like we're talking about. Because, like I was telling you, COVID actually exposed a lot. Most women and men leaders who were not educated or literate enough fell behind. And if you look at all the economies, you will see that that is where they're actually failing. Because we do not have leadership who are actually empowered enough to inform or to transform the society. So education, training, and empowerment programs, strategies that actually integrate everyone together in order for them to be able to know what to do within the society and formulate a good representation. Does that answer your question? Thank you. Yeah.
My question, thank you so much for that. I was going to ask, there's a lot about policy making that we have problems with policy implementation.
Right.
So what is being done about moving from talking the talk and actually walking the walk? Because so many policies being made. Policies are being made every day, but implementation is the problem. Are we able to shift the hands of policy makers, of governments, of powers that do to implement those policies?
That's a very good question, and that is what I'm actually talking about again here, that it's not just about us writing. In fact, we have beautiful policies that have been written. Yeah. You know, she was saying yesterday that there were some policies, you know, in some countries that people don't even know because they assume it did not even exist, you know? So what we are trying to do now, like I said, is to ensure that we create this network. So it's not just about us coming here to come and talk, and then we say bye-bye. No. It's time for action. Ensure that whatever we do together, we actually empower each other strategically to ensure that our voices are heard. Thank you.
Okay.
So let's see, how do we do that? How do we integrate together? So this network should not end. We need to start thinking about it. When you're writing your books, you know, you are giving your talks and everything, ensure that you are doing it intentionally to influence any leaders. They are listening to us. I don't know if you know, they watch us. They are looking at us. They are.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that action-orientated presentation.